Hi, good morning, Jill Winebanks.
Good morning. How are you?
Look at you. Your beautiful Dalmatian is right behind you, peering over your shoulder.
Yes. He's adorable.
He is so handsome and romantic, that dog. Oh, and also you were peering at my Goldwater Miller 2008 presidential poster. Me and Cece Goldwater Miller, 2008. Family name, no skills, just like W.
Yep.
To which I got a huge laugh from you.
Yes.
Okay, so I have one for you.
What's that?
Can you read this?
Stormy for president put a bigger boob in the White House. Okay. All right.
That's funny.
That's funny. Well, funny we should bring up Goldwater, who was the one that told Nixon it was time to go. Zoe Lofgren, I don't know if you heard that soundbite, just said Nixon tried this, what Trump just did. And he just, this is, okay. So this is good news. This happened right before you got on, Jill. The White House released a very strong statement. They made it clear they have no intention of protecting Trump from any accountability regarding January 6th. They said former President Trump abused the office of the presidency, attempted to subvert a peaceful transfer of power. The former president's actions represented a unique and existential threat to our democracy that can't be swept under the rug. As President Biden determined, the constitutional protections of executive privilege should not be used to shield information that reflects a clear and apparent effort to subvert the Constitution itself. That's a pretty strong statement, yes?
That's a pretty strong and very accurate statement. It is one that needed to be said and that needs to be followed. He can't direct anybody to do anything in this matter except what he says, but it is so accurate that there is no executive privilege here. There should be none, especially for Bannon, but for anybody who advises on crimes, it's not covered. That has been clear since the Supreme Court ruled in Watergate. They said there is something that prevails over executive privilege, and I think there is a good reason for executive privilege so people can give advice freely and candidly without worrying about, maybe tossing around crazy brainstorming ideas. But you can't advise on how to commit a crime. Just cannot do that. That is exempt from executive privilege, from attorney-client privilege, from any privilege. So that's the right thing to do, and I hope it will lead to a speedy decision from the courts to uphold the contempt charges, and that people will get the idea that they can't keep blowing off Congress. Well, we need them as a third branch of government.
How does Zoe Lofgren said she just had a chance to read Trump's lawsuit, his bid to block these presidential documents, and she said it was she was not overwhelmed. But do we have that one? Cut 8. This is Zoe Lofgren yesterday.
I just had a chance to read the complaint, and I was not overwhelmed by its crafting, let's put it that way. We'll see what a court will say, but as I say, the law does not appear to be on the former president's side. The statute's not on his side. The judgment's already been made by the real president.
I actually like that line best, the real president.
Yeah, but isn't that laughable? Asserting executive privilege when you're a private citizen. I mean, it's. Anyway, so
there is a case. In fairness, there is a case that says the former president, can weigh in, can express his views, but the preeminent decision, the ruling decision, is the incumbent president's.
Yeah,
and he's listened, he's heard, and he's ruled. Right. But the court ruled. So even if he were willing to assert it, Congress could go to court and say, hold on, what about US v. Nixon? The court said you can't have executive privilege when there is a crime committed. So I don't think there's any way he could, even the real president couldn't lawfully assert executive privilege.
Jill, are you struck, as I am, by the fact that he appears to either be getting away with stuff or being able to delay in some way that we've never seen before because it's all out in the open? I mean, with Nixon, it was all surreptitious, which it was why it was boo-ha-ha, we found the tapes, whereas this still doesn't make it any less illegal, does it? That this is all out in the open, and there's an Eastman memo, and there's a tape with Georgia, and there's, I mean, that doesn't make it any less illegal, does it? Does it somehow just numb us or normalize it to his law breaking?
It doesn't numb me, and it doesn't normalize it to me. I think those things are horrible. And I also want to point out that this delay stuff doesn't have to be. After Goldwater went to the White House, the president resigned immediately. But what led to Goldwater getting to the White House was that on April 16th of that year, we subpoenaed 64 tapes, one of which ended up being what's known as the smoking gun tape. That went to the Supreme Court, was argued and decided by July 24th. That's just about 3 months. We went from subpoena to the White House objecting to going to the Supreme Court, and July 24th they ruled. We gave the information to the Congress, and that's what led to Goldwater and 2 others going to the White House saying, if you don't resign, we will convict you in the Senate. So there's no reason for this big delay. We could be done with this in 3 months. Courts have got to take this seriously and have to act, and they cannot let all sorts of silly things any more than they can let the Texas law continue.
Yeah.
They must act on that too.
Jill, you obviously it's the vote is today, right, for the Steve Bannon criminal contempt. You had a number of thoughts on Twitter I wanted to ask you about. You said, someone said, Ellie Honig said, I know prosecution of Bannon for criminal contempt could be tricky for the DOJ, but the answer about whether to charge has come down to this. How can you not charge? Where would that leave DOJ, the January 6th committee, Congress, and our constitutional balance of powers? And you said cannot do this unless civil contempt under Congress's inherent power is used. Explain that. That's separate from the DOJ. You're talking about...
Right.
Yeah.
I agree with Ellie that we need to have action, and that there is a balance that the Department of Justice does, which shouldn't be politics versus the law. It should be, do we have enough evidence for a assured conviction? You don't want to indict unless there is all the evidence of all the elements of a crime, which there is in this case. So what I was saying is, well, if Congress decided to go and use its inherent power and send the sergeant at arms out to arrest, the problem is that hasn't been done in over 100 years. That doesn't mean that the power went away. Right. They have that power. So they could do that. And would that be a faster way? Yes. Apparently the jail in Congress has been abolished. It doesn't exist anymore. They would have to probably rent a hotel room somewhere and put a marshal on 24-hour guard duty to hold the witness who was not cooperating.
Yeah.
That's not my dog.
I know. Your dog is like, it could be a statue right now. It has been behind you with his head on the chair in like the same position this entire... He has moved, so I know he's alive. But yes, my dogs are upstairs creating havoc. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, there are alternatives to criminal contempt. The alternatives are civil contempt, which, like criminal contempt, can be delayed by legal processes. And then there's the inherent power of Congress to arrest and jail a non-compliant witness, and that requires nothing but them ordering the sergeant at arms to take that action. And it was done once, and the person was imprisoned in the congressional prison. But that prison, as I said, no longer exists. So I think there's nothing wrong with the method that they've taken. Any one of those methods sends a message that they're serious. They can, both civil and criminal contempt can lead to jail as well as fines. And obviously, jail is the result of the inherent powers.
Do they wait till after the DOJ and the referral, or should they do it simultaneously? What's your opinion?
They can. I wouldn't do them simultaneously.
Yeah.
Because that would, if you did the inherent power, for example, then justice would say, well, he's already in jail. There's no point.
Okay. So they're going DOJ first, which I agree with. Yeah.
And I think that's I'm not opposing that. I'm just saying that there was an alternative that's maybe even faster. Although, again, once it is turned over to the U.S. Attorney in the District of Columbia, after the vote by the full House, Nancy Pelosi delivers it to the U.S. Attorney. Now, the words in the statute say shall, they shall bring the contempt. But it's been interpreted as they shall if they have decided that there is enough evidence. It's not just enough to do it on the order of Congress. They have to decide. So there's some period of days where they will evaluate the evidence, which in this case, as you pointed out, we've all seen it.
Yeah.
He wrote a letter saying, I'm not coming in, I'm not going to cooperate unless you get an order from a court. So that's ignoring the inherent power that they have. So I think any one of those things is good and should be a warning to every other subpoenaed person. And again, it's been clear from the McGahn case, you can't just not show up.
Yeah.
You have to come in, and then you can claim any privilege you want to claim, Fifth Amendment or executive privilege, and then it's up to them to rule.
And we have to stop playing by different rules, Jill. I had Susan McDougal on my show back in the day. They put her in jail for 18 months to not want to testify about investigation into someone's private life. I didn't even want to get started. Anyway, let me quote you to you. You said... But you said of, just this whole thing, the enforcing subpoenas in general. I see obstruction of Congress. You said, I see crime. I think we've long since passed the time when we can allow witnesses to ignore subpoenas. This is what the precedence that's been set up in the Trump administration. You said earlier in the hour, use it or lose it. And it's true. If Congress doesn't use the powers it has to compel testimony, they cannot exercise their constitutional right for oversight. And that's what this is. We need new laws to prevent a recurrence of January 6th. The only way we can do that is for Congress to have all the information that it has requested in the letters to the people subpoenaed. So far, it lays out a very good case for those people to come in and testify. So I think whether he's doing this to be a martyr, Steve Bannon, or whether he's doing this as a legal strategy, we know the law does not allow him to fail, for example, to show up for his deposition. He has to come in if he wants to claim any privilege, including the Fifth Amendment. He can do it when he comes into the room. He can't do it by saying, I'm not coming because I think I have executive privilege because the ex-president says I have it. So is that, did they do this from the time he was supposed to be in the room, Jill? Is that what activated this? Because he didn't show up for his testimony.
Well, he also didn't reply to the documentary subpoena. So there's subpoena Dukas Tiedemann for testimony as well. And I think the case is even stronger for failing to show up for testimony as opposed to the subpoena for documents. But it goes beyond even this. If we are to have a functioning democracy, we need three branches of government co-equal, and we need oversight of the executive branch by Congress. That's the foundation of our democracy. And if we go back to the Trump administration, not only did they not show up for impeachment hearings and for criminal investigations, they didn't show up for ordinary oversight. So the Secretary of Homeland Security just didn't come in response to a subpoena for oversight of issues like border control. And we cannot function. Congress needs information in order to pass laws, to understand what the problems are. Watergate led to a lot of good laws as a result of the information they got during hearings. Yeah. And that's being denied right now. So I would say that oversight is as important as the investigation of particular criminal conduct. And we must get people to cooperate. Means they have to come in. And if it takes jailing them, fining them, whatever it is, it needs to happen.
How confident are you we will see justice as it relates to January 6th?
Like everyone in this country, I am concerned and worried. I am still in my Pollyanna phase where I still believe that the Congress will do the right thing. I still hope that some some Republicans will join in what should be the obvious contempt vote. How many will vote for contempt, I don't know.